Nelson is synonymous with the wide popularity country music enjoys in the United States and around the world. Yet Nelson's career has very little traces of the conformity that often goes hand in hand with such widespread acclaim. No, the red-haired stranger, as he is known to his fans, has staked his legacy around challenging convention. Musically, he shunned the traditional Nashville country scene by pioneering his own subgenre known as outlaw country. And over several decades, he has been consistently involved in social justice causes. He co-founded Farm Aid, the annual benefit and awareness-raising concert for small farmers. Nelson has entered environmental entrepreneurship, partnering in a biodiesel plant that fuels trucks with vegetable oil. He has been a vocal advocate for decriminalizing marijuana, co-chairing the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws Advisory Board. He has voiced support for progressive candidates like Dennis Kucinich, endorsing his run for the presidency in 2004, and he's been a harsh critic of the Iraq War and the Bush administration, recently calling for the impeachment of President Bush and Vice President Dick Cheney.
Willie Nelson was in New York last night to headline Democracy Now!'s 12th anniversary gala event. Today, he joins us in our Firehouse studio for the hour. Willie Nelson, welcome.
Thank you.
Before we start our conversation, let's begin with a song. Your choice.
This is a Chris Christopherson song. Was it wonderful for you? Was it holy as it was for me? Could you feel the hand of destiny that was guiding us together? You were young enough to dream. I was old enough to learn something new. I'm so glad I got to dance with you for a moment of forever. Sometimes when you're crying, you're happy. And sometimes you're just crying. I know. And come whatever happens now, ain't it nice to know that dreams still come true? I'm so glad that I was close to you for a moment of forever. Sometimes when you're crying, you're happy. And sometimes you're just crying. I know. Come whatever happens now, ain't it nice to know that dreams still come true? I'm so glad that I was close to you for a moment of forever.
Moment of Forever, the title song on your latest album.
Mm-hmm.
When did you write it?
I didn't write that. Chris Christopherson wrote that a few years ago and sang it for me. And, I listened to it and I thought, well, that's really a good song. But I really didn't get that hung up on it until recently when I went in the studio and the producer brought me that song again and said, here's a song by Chris. And I said, I remember that song. And I got into singing it and I said, yeah, this is better than I remembered.
Well, you've got so many millions of fans around the world, and for your music, but not as many know about all of the activities that you've been involved in over the years. I guess the most famous, of course, is Farm Aid. And could you talk to us a little bit about how you got involved with Farm Aid and how it developed?
Every year for several years, I had done the Illinois State Fair, and Big Jim Thompson, the governor of Illinois, and I got to be buddies, and every year he'd come on the bus, and we'd have a beer, a bowl of chili, and we'd talk about things and politics and whatever. And this particular year, he told me that, you know, there's big problems in the Farm Belt now, that farmers are having a lot of trouble. So we started talking about that and started trying to figure out, well, what can we do to call attention to it? So he obtained the facility there in Illinois, in Champaign, Illinois, and we did our first Farm Aid.
Can you talk about sustainable biodiesel, the whole idea, the company that you founded with Annie Nelson, your wife? And
well, the whole idea is to keep it local, is to grow, the farmers can grow what we need, food, fuel, over across the road over there, and we can buy it from them, consume it, and everything stays within the community. The problem is when we start importing everything, then you have all the transportation, all the environmental issues, and the price goes high. So biodiesel is a great idea, but it has to be done locally. It has to be sustained locally, and has to be for the local community, or else, you know, it's no different than any other energy cartel. We have to keep things local. Our farmer grows it. We buy it from him, whether it's food or fuel. He makes a couple of bucks. We consume it. If there's anything over, we might send it out north 100 miles or so. But otherwise, it stays right here. The ideal situation would be to have a biodiesel plant here, and then to have a truck stop, and then to have an interstate where you have the whole thing set up. And that's exactly what's happening in Carl's Corner, Texas, where we're putting in a biodiesel plant. In fact, it's already up and rolling. And the truck stop is almost built there in a brand new facility, and right on Interstate 35. So you have all the ingredients necessary to keep it local, keep it sustainable.
Because I think that's the fear, obviously, of a lot of folks. So we've had some of the Latin American leaders who have been here and saying Brazil, of course, is now building up this huge biodiesel industry, really, and they're so worried about the prices of foods going up as a result of the land being used just for biodiesel fuel. So your approach would keep it completely local for every
country. You know, so we don't have to import. They don't have to export. Whatever they grow, they can use it locally, and whatever happens locally, they enjoy all the sustainability, all the profits, without sending it all the way here to us, where we got to pay transportation charges, or somebody does, when we could be growing it ourselves. So whatever we do, we have to do it local and keep it sustainable.
do you have a song that you have written, or someone else's song that you like to play around issues of sustainability and biodiesel that comes to mind?
Really, I really haven't written any music, you know, along those lines. Maybe I will someday, or get Chris to.
Tell us about your biodiesel bus.
Well, the bus runs on completely biodiesel when we can find it. And that's still an issue, is being able to go around the country like we do. And there's a lot of artists who now are trying to use biodiesel as much as they can. And you can go to biodiesel.org, or you can go to websites and find out where you can obtain it across the country. And I do a radio show every Wednesday on XM radio, satellite radio, on Bill Mack Show. And we talk about biodiesel, and I talk to all the truckers going up and down the highway, and they tell me they use it, they like it, it's good for the engines, they get good gas mileage. And so the American truckers have been the ones who have spread the word about biodiesel as much as anybody.
What does it smell like?
Well, I guess it would depend. Vegetable oil, your tailpipe can smell like French fries. You know, we have a couple of cars over in Maui that run completely on vegetable oil. And my wife, Annie, wanted to buy, this is about 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, she wanted to buy this Volkswagen Jetta, a diesel that she wanted to run it on vegetable oil. That's the first time I'd heard anything ridiculous like that, you know. So I accused her of being in my stash and getting it over. But she laughed and said, well, I'm going to do it anyway. So she bought this Volkswagen. It ran beautifully, and still does, on vegetable oil. And the tailpipe smells like French fries. So I bought a Mercedes and did the same thing. And I think the Mercedes people became a little nervous when I bought one of their cars and crammed it full of vegetable oil. But it runs like a sewing machine. It runs good, and I use it 100%. And you can do that in Maui because there's no weather problems. But, you know, biodiesel will gel in real cold weather. So a lot of the truckers are using what they call a B20, which is a blend of